a magician, or whether you'd found something that gave you that kind of attention.
Do you know what, Jackie? Wow, this is going to go into therapy now. I was a really scared kid. I was.
So welcome everybody to Power to Speak, the podcast. And my guest today, I'm so excited, is Paul Newton. Yay!
Don't get too excited. They'll expect a level of expertise, and I'm worried I won't be there.
And they should. So Paul, magician, mind reader, and thief.
Yes.
Why would you want to be introduced in that way? Tell us a little bit about all of those.
Do you know what? My life has become very, very weird in the last few years, and even before those few years, I'm a magician. I'm an entertainer. I love what I get to do. I get to make people laugh. I get to make people happy. I get them to believe that magic's possible again. And then I kind of fell into this world of cybersecurity, because if you think about it, Jackie, if I'm a mind reader, then what information can I steal off of you? And maybe I can nick your passwords. Maybe I can nick your usernames for things. Maybe I can nick your PIN number for your credit card. If I start doing that kind of stuff, what damage can I do to you or your business without you even realizing that I'm in your systems? And to be honest with you, it's now about 3.5 years ago. I was doing a gig for the military. I was doing magic and I was doing close-up stuff and I was messing about. And this one guy just annoyed me. This one guy at the table really annoyed me. He was one of the worst type of hecklers you can get. And I remember thinking to myself, right, I'm going to have you. And I started doing some mind reading on him while I was doing close-up magic. And I did it. I stole his username, his password, his PIN number, his mother's maiden name, his first pet dog's name, and the name of the road he grew up on. And I wrote them all down on a bit of card. And at the end of my session at that table, I went, look, you know magic's not real. You know mind reading's not real. How did I do with this lot? And I gave him the card, and he swore at me a lot. He said that I was 100% correct. He swore at me a lot. I walked away from the table, and then he chased me, and he grabbed me, and he said, I need to have a word. And he said, is mind reading real? Now, this is the moment when if a kid comes up to me and says, is Santa real? The answer is always yes, okay? But this officer of the military is now scared of a mind reader. And we had a chat, and he believes mind reading's 100% real now. And then he said to me, you know, if you did that to 3 select people in the room, just think of the damage you could do to the military. And that was it. I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, what can I do to businesses in, just in the English-speaking world, because I don't speak any other languages. And then all of a sudden I realized that people need to care about security, but they don't want to listen to IT geeks that really know their stuff. So I now get up on stage, I steal stuff from people in the room, and I point out ways that I break into buildings and companies all over the world. As a speaker and an entertainer, I love it. I love it. Just those moments in their faces of what the bleep just happened. and then I teach them how to stop it. And then I give them a reason to talk to their IT teams who know how to protect them. So yeah, don't come to me about IT. Don't ask me about your computers, because I know nothing about them. But I'm the reason businesses are taking their IT gurus seriously. And mate, I seriously, like I said to you, I've fallen into this, and I'm absolutely loving the journey at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, what a journey. We'll go back on the journey, but I just want to go into what you've just said there. You're saying maybe I could take your PIN, I could find out your PIN number, maybe, but actually you can.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no maybe about it. You can do that. But what intrigues me is the connection between magic and mind reading. I've watched you on some videos I've never seen. In fact, we've never met in person, have we?
No, because we only started getting to really know each other when lockdown was happening.
Yes.
So we've only met online,
which is strange, because I do feel like I know you, which is bizarre. I think we might have actually, thinking about it now, back at Chewton Glen, back pre-lockdown. I think we were at an only network in a room together.
Yeah. You're talking about the place that does really nice salmon. Yes. I know where you're on about.
But it's, I've watched a couple of your magic tricks on YouTube and on your website, and incredible what you can do close up. I mean, literally in people's faces. But I do wonder: is there something in the what you learn as a magician that you learn then you then take into that sort of mind reading side? Is there must be a
Very much so.
connection? Yeah,
Very much so. So when you start out as a magician, well, actually no, I'd say my journey, I started with a Paul Daniels magic set, where you get taught how to make a ball disappear in a cup, or where you get taught a couple of card tricks, or the sponge ball routine where sponge balls are disappearing and reappearing all over the place. That's where most people start, and that's where I started. But then you get to, I can remember I got to a level where most adults would watch this child Paul, and he would freak them out, and they would be watching and just amazed and don't know what to say, do, or think. And I got to a point where another magician saw me, and he said, "You've got something there. You're really good. I'll teach you a couple of tricks." And I'm perfect, thanks. I want to know how to do the levitation thing across stage. And he went, no, we'll teach you lower level stuff. And once you can perform it well, you come back to me and you perform it to me. And if you do it well, then I'll teach you the next level stuff. And that's how he and I worked together for quite a while. And he was teaching me like 2 things at a time, making things a bit harder, making it. And really, what I realized he was doing now was he was weeding out people who just wanted to know the secrets and people that actually wanted to put the work in.
right.
And I turned into one of the people that wanted to put the work in and prove myself. And actually, Jackie, now I do the same myself. If somebody comes up to me at a gig and says, "Oh, I really want to be a magician, can you teach me how?" I'll go, "Whoa, there's trick number 1. I'll teach you trick number 1. Okay, I'm not going to teach you anything else. Don't ask for anything else. I'm going to teach you trick number 1. If you come back to me in a few weeks and you perform trick number 1 really well, I'll teach you trick number 2. And it's amazing. I've had, my word, now I've probably had over 1,000 people learn trick number 1. I've probably had about 100 people come back for trick number 2. I've probably had about 30 people come back for trick number 3. Trick number 4, I think we're at 4 people.
Yeah.
And all 4 of those people are now professional magicians.
Yeah.
So for me, the way I was taught worked. Yeah. And when I got to a certain level, that magician then said, "Right, you now need to meet other magicians." And that's when it got really interesting, because all of a sudden I've gone from doing card tricks to, you could do mind reading, you could do sleight of hand, you could be a card sharp, you could just concentrate on coins, you could just go into elastic band magic. There's so many choices. You could do illusions, you could go on stage, you could do big mind reading. And for me, the thing that interested me the most is when you see a trick happen within somebody's own head. If I get somebody to I'm not going to do this on people that are listening, because there's probably too many, it won't work on all of them, but let's just say I made them think of a bicycle, okay, and they write down the word bicycle, and they might even write down red underneath it because they're thinking of a red bicycle. If I get them to think of that themselves and they write it down, so I've got proof as to what they think, and then I just look at them and go, "Okay, I think you went back to your childhood, I think you went for a bike, I'm going to go for a BMX bike, and I think it's painted red." When you nail something that they've got, they're just looking around going, "But nobody else knows that." And then to prove it to the audience, you go, "Can you open up the bit of paper that you wrote it on?" And they just open it up and it says bicycle red. It's just amazing watching people just go, "This is actually possible. How the hell did he do that?" So for me, the mind reading stuff really started when I was a late teenager. I just love it. I just think it takes magic to a whole different level.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love illusionists as well. I love watching them. And whilst I know I'm at a point in my career where I can find out how any trick in the world works, there's certain illusion tricks that I never want to know, because to me, they're magic. That's the only explanation. They must be real magic.
I love that. I love that there's still illusions out there that even you can't fathom, can't work out.
Yep, I've got buddies that are some of the best illusionists in the world. I'll go see their show, and afterwards they'll go, "I've got to show you how this works because I'm so excited." And I'm like, "Nope, nope, no, no, that one was magic. I'm happy with how I watched it. I don't want to know." and it'll be something amazingly clever or something ridiculously simple that I didn't see. But I still want to be that kid who
Yeah.
goes, magic's real.
Yeah. I mean, is it a lot of it? I mean, they're called illusions for a reason, but I suppose is there actually something in our brains that makes it work? It's not just
Yeah,
all about you, Paul. Is it actually something in the person that you are performing to,
and
something that happens in their own
yes,
brain?
there really is. And our brains are amazing and wonderful things, but we love to guess at the gaps. Okay, so in between the moment when I'm holding the card and its back's towards you, and I turn it around and prove it's a 6 of hearts or whatever it is, and then I turn it back again, and if in that moment I can then switch that card to a queen of spades, I can say to you, "What's the card?" And you'll go, "It's a 6 of hearts." Well, actually, I've got the queen of spades. Now, in your head, you're just like, "But that was definitely it was. There's no way that could have changed." But there's got to be. Me and you know there's got to be. But your brain will jump at it's magic, and it's real magic because I
Mm.
watched him the whole time. Um, there's I don't want to kill any of the tricks that I do for anyone that's ever watched me. But there's times that I can make you look up here because I'm doing something and I'm waving that hand and flat. And then actually, video is a great idea because whilst you can see that hand there, I've got a left hand, but I'm making you look up here, so you're definitely and that you don't know if I've just changed the whole deck of cards with my left hand. While me and you were both looking at this hand doing something stupid,
Yeah.
I've just trained myself that with my left hand I can take another deck of cards out my pocket, put it on the table, take the one away that we were using earlier, and all of those ones are the Queen of Spades or something silly like that. But in your head, there was no time to do that because we
Yeah.
were engaged and constantly talking. There was no way Paul could have cheated. And yeah, realistically, I'm a professional cheat and liar
And
um,
thief.
and thief. And my job is to scare the bejesus out of people, so hopefully they'll do something productive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's an amazing journey to have got to this. So let's go back to Paul Daniels. How
Yeah,
old were you when you got your Paul Daniels set?
I think I was about 6. It's hard to check. So my family were very traditional. My mum stayed at home and looked after me and my brother until we were at an age that we could fend for ourselves. And my dad was out a lot, in his own business, working to pay the bills. So that meant that mum made loads of the choices, and unfortunately, my mum passed nearly 11 years ago now. And if she was still here, I know that I could go, "How old was I when I started doing magic?" And she'd go, "You were 6 3/4, or something like that." But I'm almost certain that it was around 6 or 7 years old that they gave me a Paul Daniels magic set, and I can still remember doing some of the tricks that were in there and watching my parents' friends just be stunned. And you know what it's like if when you get a kid come up and go, "I'm going to sing the best song ever and I want you to hear it," and you always do the, "Yeah, that'll be nice, that'll be nice, that'll be lovely," because you have to. Okay, we're nice, we're British, we're going to say this is lovely. And you would see adults go, "Oh, Paul's going to do it, little Paul's going to do a magic trick, that'll be nice," and they're all getting ready to say how good it is when it might have been rubbish. Okay, and then you do the trick and you just see a group of adults go, "What? What? How did what?" And there's my parents going, "We know, we we know, we don't know how he did it either. It's and he's not telling us because in the book that Paul Daniels said in there, you're not allowed to teach people, so he's not telling us a thing." And just that moment of being able to make grown adults laugh and act shocked from doing a card trick or from making something disappear up a sleeve somewhere, that's an amazing
Yeah.
feeling. Um,
Yeah.
I
And
know you've done stage stuff. I know you've been on stage. That moment when the audience goes, "Ah,"
well, that's what I'm wondering, whether at that point in your life, age 6 3/4, whether you wanted to be a magician, or whether you'd found something that gave you that kind of attention.
do you know what, Jackie? I was wow. This is going to go into therapy now. I was a really scared kid. I was a really shy and a really really scared kid, like all the time. I remember being told that I went to school once, one of the first days at school, and try and hide behind my mum because I didn't want to go in. And I kicked off a fight because I didn't want to go in. Why would I want to meet all these people? I don't want to be known by these people. You compare that to the guy that you've seen who jumps up on stage in front of thousands of people without a care in the world. The truth is, going into theatre groups, getting into magic, gave me a level of confidence where I didn't have to believe in Paul Newton anymore, because I could hide behind the trick, or I could hide behind the character. If I was acting in something, they're not looking at Paul Newton. They're looking at Bob, who, the guy who's going to sing and dance and has these lines, and the director has shaped what that person's going to do. So for a long time, I hid behind the magician and the character. And I think there was a switch when I was in mid-teens, when I started to realize that you don't have to always stick to the script. You can change things around a bit. That changed the magic stuff as well, because I'd been literally reading a book and learning the patter from the magician that made the trick and doing it almost word for word. And then I was doing, where was I? I can remember the director. I remember the director's name, Donovan. He was a real big, booming character, and he'd literally, one day he threatened to take my eyeballs out with a spoon if I messed up the lines. He was just one of those overpowering. He was amazing, but he realised that there was something different in Paul Newton, and he turned around to me one day and he said, "You're great at acting." He goes, "You're brilliant." He goes, "You're a director's dream because you'll listen and you'll take it in and you'll do what we ask." He said, "But I don't believe that's where you're destined." He said, "You don't need a script. You need to step out from behind the script and just show people the stuff you can do." He goes, "I've seen you entertaining other kids with magic tricks. Why aren't you getting paid for that already?" And there was just a bit of a moment of, hold on, I could earn money from doing something I love, and I don't have to learn a script, and I could be a bit more me. Um, and yeah, if I ever find where Donovan Carey is working, I'm going to turn up at one of his shows and just give him some grief because I think I'm allowed to. But yeah, I'd love to find him again. I'd love
Yeah.
to.
I mean, I spent a lot of time teaching. Do you know, I never went to a youth theatre when I was
No
growing
way.
up. No, they just weren't. I mean, they were too far away from. My dad worked away a lot. My mum drove, but yeah, she didn't drive very far, and so I just never got the opportunity. I suppose there wasn't one on the doorstep. I
Yeah,
did some drama at school, but I used to make stuff up with my friends in the playground. That was my thing, and then we'd perform it on a Friday afternoon in the classroom. Um,
nice.
but obviously, once I started acting myself and I got into teaching kids, I'd spent quite a lot of time working in youth theatres, and to see kids blossom like they do if you give them the right opportunity,
Yeah,
if you can tame the loud ones that look at me, look at me, look at me, and kind of bring the ones that are stuck against the wall and don't want to get, if you can kind of bring them together to make them realize that actually if they work together, then that it's a really supportive atmosphere, then everybody gets to shine.
yeah,
It's that kind of thing. So which were you? It sounds like you were maybe one of the ones that were stuck against the wall for a while.
yeah. I was. I remember. I was. I'd kind of stay hidden, and especially if there was dancing involved. If it was group dancing, I'd try and be behind someone. Because even back then, I wasn't the best. I had choreographers who'd tell me I was lying, and that they knew that they could push me. But oh, this is going to be bad. The first time I went for a main part, I was definitely not over the age of 18, but I seem to remember being a little bit squiffy from drinking some ciders or something. And I went into this theatre group, and then they said, "Oh, we're auditioning for this part." I think it was Joseph actually. We're auditioning for this part, and so one of my mates went, "Go on, Paul," and kind of pushed me a bit. And I went, "All right," and just got up, sung the main song, acted like, and because just that little bit of inhibition was gone, I got the main part. And I remember the director of that show going, "Where did that come from?" And all of my mates going, "That was amazing. Why have you been hiding that?" And yeah, just because a silly teenager had a drink before he went in there, I ended up starting getting main parts.
Yeah, I'm not going to advocate that. I'm not going to,
No, oh my word, no. Jackie, I look back at some of the stuff that I did as a late teenager and early 20s, and I think, wow, I'm impressed I'm alive.
Oh, don't know. Me the same, actually.
Mate, I'm so glad we didn't have video cameras back then.
Oh God, yeah. Social media, nightmare.
No,
No,
that would have been very bad, I think.
No. So when did you step out from sort of the youth theatre and start actually going for professional auditions?
It was a gradual thing, and it happened because there were two youth theatres that I was into a lot. And being in two different youth theatres, you'd get conflict of timings and schedules, and sometimes you'd have shows trying to be on at the same time. I remember one time I had a main part in both youth theatres, and the show was on 1 week for one of them and the following week for the other one. So I had to learn two parts fully. And for the last main rehearsals of the second show, I couldn't be there because I was on stage. But it was each director that I met and each choreographer that I met. I started networking back then. And, you'd then have a director go, "Well, I'm working on a production and they need somebody of exactly your type. And I think you could do this." And they'd put me forward to auditions. And it was weird as well, Jackie, because I don't know if you've done this. If you pick up the stage newspaper and you go to an open audition and you queue up and there's like 200 people in front of you that look exactly the same as you, and there's 200 people behind you that look exactly the same as you. And I remember doing loads of them, and it was so soul destroying, because they'd look at you and go, "Oh yeah, but your nose is not quite crooked enough," and that's the reason you didn't get it. And then there was other auditions where somebody had shoehorned me in and they were part of the production team. And then you'd walk on stage for them and you'd hear them going, here he is, this is the one I know from, 20 seats back in whatever the venue they're using." And you'd do your thing and you'd see the rest of that person's team go, "Oh yeah, okay." So I learned even back then, a lot of the time, it's not just about proving you. It's about who you know, and the fact that because someone knows you, their ears prick up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So horribly, the guy who was on just before me in those auditions possibly didn't get listened to as well as they should have, because my buddy's up there going, Paul Newton's on next. He's the one I want you to listen to. So they're distracted from this guy that could have been amazing.
Yeah, it is an awful business for that. It really is, because it can really turn on just a penny. It doesn't matter how fantastic you are. If somebody, exactly as you say, it's somebody before you knows somebody who knows somebody,
I know. Yeah, one of my buddies, brilliant actor, brilliant stuntman. I love him to bits, and he gets some really good work in Hollywood stuff. Okay, he looks like a thug, and he's got a broken nose. And he went to this audition, didn't get it because he had a broken nose. Then he saw the part in the film, and they gave the guy a fake broken nose.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Go figure. No, but it is that kind of thing of and networking is amazing for that. Is something that you need to do. And I talk to people, young people especially, about getting into whatever business they're getting into. It is about networking, but it's also just about making yourself valuable, making yourself presentable, reliable, all of those things that we all kind of go, oh no, I don't want to do that's I want to be more exciting than that. But actually, it pays to be nice. It pays to talk to people, to turn up on time, and the more you can ingratiate yourself to other people, and and a lot of that is to do with sort of the networking space and not being afraid to kind of be yourself.
No, I'm even now it pays back, Jackie, because when I was in youth theatres, I had a massive interest in the technical side as well. So I used to help the tech side in the venues I was in. And I got employed to be a stage technician, a lighting technician, a sound technician, because I was nice and I enjoyed it.
Mm.
Now that pays me back an absolute fortune now, because I turn up to do keynote talks at where was I last? Excel. I was in Excel in London. Turn up to do a keynote talk there. You go in, the technician. There's a look in technicians' eyes when they go, "Oh, here they are. I wonder if this one's going to be a diva. Oh, okay. What are we working with now?" And I turn up and go, "Hello, I'm Paul. How you doing?" And they go, "Ah, he actually spoke to me in a decent way." And then I go, "Right, what do you need from me?" And they go, we're meant to see what you need from us." And I'm like, "What? Okay, I'm going to jump on stage and do what I know I can do. So what do you as a technician need to know from me to make sure we get the best show possible?" And they go, "Oh, oh, okay." And all of a sudden, you've got this technician on your side.
Yeah.
They know that you get it. They know that you understand. They are there for 18-hour days, trying to make you look good. And
Yeah.
if you come up and act like an absolute idiot, I had lots of other words go through my head then, and I don't want to say anything. And I've walked away from talks and shows where technicians have forgotten to turn the lights off at the end because they were enjoying the show so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I think, did it, nailed it. That was a
Yeah.
good one. If the professional technician is watching so intently, he's gone, "I forgot I was working. Hold on, what
Yeah.
just happened?" And I find that funny. I love that.
Yeah. If you can get your technicians on your side, absolutely. But I mean, it's more difficult. I know from working backstage myself, but also being on stage, is that obviously nerves can make you very obviously anxious, but a little bit arsey sometimes,
Yeah,
angsty.
yeah,
And I've certainly dealt with actors like that when I was working backstage, but also I've been in that position, and it's not so bad when you're in a production that is ongoing, because you're going to be working with those technicians day in
yeah.
day. You'll
People
have done
get
the
to know
tech
the real
rehearsals
you.
with them. Yes, they'll go along with you. But if
Yeah,
you're walking onto the stage for the first time as a keynote, you don't have that opportunity, do you? So I would imagine there are people that turn up to a keynote and are very nervous, and
yeah,
obviously turn the technicians against them almost immediately.
yeah. And you do see it, and I know you've seen people do exactly that. But you know what? It's all a state of mind, isn't it? We choose what we do.
Mm.
At the end of the day, we make those choices. Um, right now, you don't know. There could be personal things going on in my life that I would have reason to sit here and sulk and moan. Okay, but you've taken the time out to ask me to do this show, give me a way to promote myself to the people that are following you. And if I was to turn up and give anything less than 100%, I don't think that's fair.
No.
And actually, we can use this show as a great example. We were meant to record this earlier than we have done, okay? And I messaged you saying, "I feel rough. I'm really sorry, I feel rough. If this is the only time we can record, I can be there. But I feel rough and I know it." And you just replied with, "No, we'll reschedule. We'll reschedule." And
Yeah.
I think part of that is because I wouldn't have even messaged you if I thought I could do this. But
Yeah.
can you imagine if I turned up and only gave your listeners 80%?
Yes. Yeah.
I'd
No.
be so annoyed with myself.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
No, no, thank you for rearranging it. It was, and to anyone listening, sorry this wasn't out earlier. I don't know how the schedule worked. That might have been my fault. I apologise.
No. It's perfect right now. Right now is the right time. So that's brilliant.
Awesome.
So in terms of sort of the journey and this kind of mindset that you have now developed through years of experience, is there anything that you have done that's kind of apart from just experience that has given you this kind of mindset and way of working?
It's weird again because I can honestly I can swear to you, and I can remember times that I was not this version of me. I can remember times that if you'd said I needed to walk on stage and say hello to 10 people, I would have run a mile. but it's little steps for me. It's little steps that you hardly even notice you're taking yourself. Okay. And nowadays, I sometimes go and do a talk for Women's Institute, or I'll go and do a talk for a speakers association of some kind. And you'll have people in that room who say, I come here every month. I still haven't presented to these people. Okay, how long have you been coming here? About 2 years. Okay, so you've been here 24 times. You like and know the people around you, but you still haven't stood up in front to start speaking. No, I'm too nervous. It hasn't been right. The timing's not right for me. I needed this, that, and the other. And something that I love doing in those situations, Jackie, and this is a bit cheeky, okay? You have to have the right attitude and you have to have the right level of annoyingness to get away with this, okay? Is if I find one of those people that's already in a place that they know they want to do this anyway, I'll normally just walk towards them and go to shake their hand. And I'll say, thank you very much for admitting that. That helps. And then when I shake their hand, I actually lift them up a bit and I bring them up towards me and I say, we're just going to have a chat about this. And I bring them onto the stage area, but I concentrate on talking with them. So they hardly even notice they've actually moved and they're now just talking with me. And then what I do is I say, well, tell me your hobbies. Tell me some things you love doing. And this one guy, I can remember this guy, it was over in Portsmouth. It was just beautiful. This one guy said, boating, sailing. I love sailing. Brilliant. Tell me something about sailing because I've never done it and I live on the south coast. I should understand sailing. Tell me something about sailing that enthuses you, that gets you excited, that makes you want to talk about it more. And he goes, there's nothing like it. When you get out on the water and then you get the sail there and you do this, and he started going technical on me and he started talking about, but you saw the enthusiasm start to come up. And he's not doing a speech now. He's just talking about something he loves.
Mm.
And as you see that moment of excitement, enthusiasm, I start to step back a bit and I start to move into the middle of the audience. So he's still doing eye contact with me, but he's talking above the seated audience. And I go, brilliant. Have you got your own boat? Have you got your own, what have you? And then he starts talking about the boat that he owns and where he launches it from and how he does. And I'm moving further and further back. And every so often, if it's a bit hard to hear him, I'll just go, can you just speak up a bit? And he'll get louder and he starts talking. And then after about 5 minutes, I go, you do realise you've just done the best presentation ever on sailing in Portsmouth Harbour. And then he kind of stops and looks around and he goes, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience gave him a round of applause. I don't think we actually have a fear of speaking.
No.
We can all speak. I think we have a fear of the unknown. And taking that away from his head,
yeah,
and that was possibly 4 years ago, that one. And I know that he now does talks for 15, 20 minutes at business clubs.
Yeah.
And all it took.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. And, that's kind of what I used to do in my drama classes with people is to kind of just encourage them, just get up and talk about what you love or talk about what you hate. But, it just talk. And that's really all it is. And that's why stories are so important. People get they're doing a presentation, they get so wrapped up in the data or the information that they need to deliver is that they forget that actually the people are not going to go away and remember that stat. They're going to go away and remember the story behind that stat,
Yeah.
And I had it as well when I went to work with a guy in corporate, and he was a finance man, and they were doing a presentation, and he sat there for 20 minutes before we got started. Just, we were waiting for other people to arrive. He was so excited about what he'd done for the business and everything else, and how fantastic it was and how they were now making this, blah, blah, blah. And then literally they put the slides on and they started their presentation, and the enthusiasm just went, because he started delivering the data. And I said, no, stop. What happened to the guy that was just sat here excited, telling me how fantastic it all, what a difference he'd made. And it's just that you suddenly think that you should perform in a certain way. And that's what scares people, because they worry that they're not going to do it right. There's a fear in that they're going to let somebody down, themselves, probably.
And it is funny, isn't it? Sometimes I'll get asked to host an awards or to be part of as something, and you'll see the person get up and they've got their piece of paper and they almost want to hide behind that A4 bit of
Mm.
paper and just read it and hope the microphone picks it up. And I'll look at the bit of paper and I'll go, "Oh, can I borrow that?" And they go, "Yeah." And I go, "Okay, right. I'll highlight this bit and this bit and this bit, and I'm going to take my own bit of paper and I'm going to make a couple of notes and I'm going to ask you questions around that." And they go, "What?" And I go, "So what we'll do, instead of you just stand there and read that, we'll turn it into an interview style. Because then what I've really done is I take their focus away from the 500 or 600 people that are sat in chairs in front of them. And now we rearrange the stage slightly so that they've got their space, I've got my space, and I can literally go, Dave, it's lovely for you to meet you, mate. Thank you so much for coming up. Can you just tell us about this bit in this? What happened there, and how did your team deal with it?" And he just goes, "Yeah, Paul, I can talk about that." And he knows because I've highlighted the bit that I'm going to ask him about.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, when you do that for people, most of the time they don't even look at their notes.
No, and people don't. They don't need to. All that information is
It's
in their
already in
heads.
there.
It is absolutely. And then, if you put a piece of paper in front, if they write it all down, then they are so bound to say the words that they have written that they forget to tell the story and
Yeah,
actually engage with the audience. They forget the audience is there because, as you say, they're hiding behind a bit of paper.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Throw it away. Throw it away. I mean, we had a
Absolutely.
conversation when I came onto your lovely podcast, which we'll get onto a bit later, about the fact this kind of walking into a room with bullet points almost is just because
Yeah,
we are so knowledgeable, we hold so much information in our heads, but we just almost need permission to deliver it as ourselves. Just
so
speak
true.
the words,
Yeah.
and if it's just bullet points, just notes, as you don't need a script. Don't do the
No,
script.
no, and you're right. We did talk about this. Whenever I get on stage now, um, one of two things will happen. I'll either think of it as in my head, I've got Lego bricks, and I've got red bricks that are stories, and blue bricks that are magic tricks. Okay, and it's as simple as that. And I know that I've got a collection of 20 good red bricks and 20 good blue bricks, and I need to find from the audience which ones of those will work. And I eventually build a little wall that makes a little pyramid shape, ending to the one at the top that is the ender for that session, and that will make everyone go, "What the hell just happened?" And then I leave the stage. Or I'll have a sheet of A4 paper with a line down the middle, and it'll have exactly the same, but just on left side stories, right side tricks, and a list of the things I think will work for
Yeah.
this audience. Um, and that gives me and I know I can't remember if we talked about this on the show, if we talked about this privately, but I always try and make a break every 5 to 7 minutes to bring people back into what you're doing. And I'll use the bricks or the piece of paper as my excuse for that. So I'll literally have that on a lectern. I can finish a story, and then I can go, "Oh, that was a bit sensible. That was a bit scary, that one. I know what. I'll go pick a trick." And you get back those people because our
Mm,
attention span is only about 7 minutes long.
right.
And I want an excuse to reignite your attention every 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and so that little prop that I use helps me create a reason and an excuse to re-engage everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Look at me giving away all my tricks.
Well, we all have them. We all have them. And I
Yeah,
think I learned something very similar when I was teaching kids. Because if you've got, 37-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds, if you give them 2 seconds where they're not engaged, they will run rings around you.
yeah,
So, I always have, just lists and lists of stuff. And you kind of go, well, what mood are they in? I mean, I can plan a lesson, but it's never going to turn out the way I've planned it. But if you've got enough tools in your box, if there's enough stuff on the list, you're gonna make a class, a talk, a presentation that the audience are going to engage with because it's almost you've bespoked it.
this is it. But to me, that shows a massive level of understanding from your point. A creative mind who knows that you cannot write this 100%.
God no.
It just won't work. no matter what, no matter how interesting you or I think we are, you cannot, especially when there's kids involved, you cannot write it 100%. Because at points they're going to take over, throw you a massive curveball that you never saw coming. And if you're the type of person that goes, but I need to stick to my script 100%, you're going to lose it.
Gonna lose it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And adults are as bad.
Yeah, they are.
So tell me how the step from actor, I mean, you were a panto cow, I hear.
Yeah.
Were you the front or the back?
I, I was the back. That was interesting.
You had udders.
Yeah. So when I was struggling actor, like I said, I'd learned how to be a technician as well. So I'd get hired as a technician that also had acting ability. So I wasn't scared of walking on stage if needed to. So whenever the main actor needed something passed to them on stage, it was always me that was asked, because all the other technicians liked being hidden in black clothes and staying in the shadows. If something happened and somebody needed just to walk on stage, even sometimes to help with an accident or to, put a pyro out that had caught fire or something, you'd just see the stage manager go, Paul, get it. And I'd just walk out, put it out, wave to the audience, walk back. Didn't care. Um, but yeah, that then also meant that if you were doing panto and the dressed character actors couldn't do something, then Paul would jump into a costume and help out. Um, the funniest one on that was we had a comedian in panto who was brilliant and he could take a laugh, and he was one of those people that you could throw anything at him and he'd make it funny. He had this bit in the show where the theatre had a mascot of a bear that would walk on every night and hand him a bucket, and he'd pull out a raffle drawer, and he would normally be mildly abusive to whoever was in the bear costume. And it was always one of the little dancers that was in the bear costume and walked the bucket out. So this one day, all of the dancers turned around to me and went, Paul, would you be the bear and just do something, just scare him a little bit? And I'm like, if I can fit in the costume, yeah. And it was so good, Jackie, because he's used to this bear coming out and being about 5'3", because it was always one of the little dancers. And on this day, me in this bear costume and the head being bigger than my head as well, he started doing his bit. He's looking at the audience and he went, and now it's time for Becky Bear. And he looked stage right and he's just seen the head at about 6'5". And he's just looked up a bit and just gone, oh no. and he's gone, hey Becky, how are you? And I gave him a little cuddle. And then he's going, Becky, you seem a bit stronger today than normal. Are you okay? So then I gave him another cuddle and lifted him up so that he's now like about 3 foot off the floor. And he's just looking at the audience going, Becky's never been this friendly before, boys and girls. And I put him back down, patted him on the head and walked off. And at the end of that one, when he came off for that scene, he's looking at all of the crew and all of the male actors going, which one of you was it? Which one of you? Because that was funny as, and if you want to do it again, I'm up for it. But it was one of those things that we knew we could get away with it because he was really good at what he did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as soon as he saw Becky being a foot taller than normal, he just went, don't know what I'm in for now, but this is going to be fun.
Yeah. You can get away with that in panto. My
Yeah.
sister was a dancer. She did a lot of panto. And yeah, the stories. But I worked at the Royal Shakespeare Company, and if you did that on stage at the Royal Shakespeare Company, you don't want to. You want to do that. Yes, I can remember people getting very angry if somebody tried to corpse them or do anything like that.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's panto. We're allowed to have fun in
Yeah,
panto.
absolutely. And the audience expect it.
Yeah. Now there were some celebrity actors that I remember from panto time that if you even took them mildly off script, they'd get so lost.
Yes.
That within the team, you kind of went, right, don't do it to. I'm going to make up a name now. I won't say. Don't do it to Andy, because Andy cannot handle that, and the show will go wrong. We're not making a show go wrong for an audience. But the girl who's playing the female lead, she's up for this, and she's a comedian, and she can handle it, and she's used to just doing everything on the spur of the moment. We can have fun with that one. Okay, yeah. And it worked. It just worked. If you've got a whole team that just want to make the whole audience laugh and have the best time ever, it'll work.
Yes. I mean, and this is why I think everybody should have a go at improv, because even if you know how to improvise, and we all do because we're doing it right now. If you know how to improvise as an actor, then actually it really helps when you've got a script, because if something happens, then you don't get thrown. You just carry on.
Yeah. And actually, doing panto, I've probably worked on 25, maybe 30 different professional panto productions. But you could always tell the actors that were straight actors in their normal job and were used to having a script, and they would have to film, say, 5 minutes maximum, then they'd forget that script and move on to the next bit.
Yeah.
Because for those guys, having to learn 1.5 to 2 hours of full show and remember all of it, it was tough work for them.
Yeah.
And they were very often the ones that you'd go, don't take them off script, especially
Yeah.
not in week one. Leave them alone in week one. We'll see how they do in week two.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, so many happy memories from doing silly things like that. I'm still
Yeah.
friends with most of the people that I was technician with 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, no, I literally walked into a theatre and thought, gosh, this. I mean, I am at home. This is where I belong. This is where I belong. So tell me about the transition into keynote, because certainly that's a transition I'd quite like to make into sort of, standing and sharing whatever it is that you are able to give an audience, really be able to share something with them. So when did that happen for you?
So really, so I've been part of networking groups for a while, and I'll be blatantly honest, I'm not a cheap magician. I know that you can hire other magicians that are, how can I put this nicely, more cost effective. Okay. So I've been doing networking groups for a while, and a few of them said, Paul, can you just do a little talk about, how you find business, how you find work, how you justify your prices, how you do this, how you do... Yeah, of course I can. That doesn't worry me at all, because I've been on stage doing magic tricks for years. Then when I did that military gig that I told you about, where I scared the bejesus out of this officer, and he pointed out what I could do in the security world, that gig was up in Leeds in the UK. And I live on the south coast. So I've now got something like a 4 or 5 hour drive home where all that's going through my head is cybersecurity. People need my help. This guy who really knows his stuff has just pointed out to me that nobody listens to IT, nobody listens to the technicians, nobody listens to the professionals in this industry. But would they listen to a magician who bounces around like an idiot and steals stuff from the room? I'll have a think. Got home, went to bed that night. Next day, I pinged my mate Jesse, who you've met because he's part of Newton's Nuggets. Pinged him a message saying, "Can I have a chat with? I just want to block out an hour of your time. I want to have a chat with you about an idea." And he said, "Yeah, what's up?" And I said, "No, I want to explain it to you in person. We'll go through it then because I want to see your reaction to this." Now, Jesse is a marketing manager for a proper normal company. He's also ex-military. So for me, he's the perfect person to sound this out with because he already worked in marketing in the IT industry, and ex-military, he'll know where that guy was coming from. So I went in to his house, had my laptop with me, said, "Look, this is the idea. A mind reader that steals personal and private information whilst delivering talks as a keynote speaker. What I want, Jesse, is I want you to tell me this is a stupid idea, it won't work, and I should leave it alone and carry on with the professional magician stuff." What he said was, "That's brilliant. That could absolutely revolutionize the cyber security world. You could help lots of people with this. I can see this being really successful." And that was it. We then really said, okay, we need to start doing talks on this. We need to check if this works. And I started offering talks to lots of networking organizations. Ended up pretty much doing a tour of the UK of For Networking. And if nobody knows For Networking, there's normally about 20 to 30 people in the room. all small business owners who want to talk to each other and help each other grow. And they always do a 20-minute talk from one of the members. So I said to them, look, I'll do a few round Hampshire. They went really well. Very quickly, I got asked if I would go to Dorset, if I could go to London, if I'd go to Somerset, So I literally did a tour of the south of the UK of 4 networking groups just to find out if this had any basis in reality, if this could go well. From doing that tour, it gave me more confidence. I could learn which stories worked. I could learn which tricks worked well, which ones impacted the story and made people think. Great way to do it. Okay, great way to start because you're seeing a real audience and they're giving you real feedback. From doing that tour, I then had people saying, oh, we've got a bigger event over here. Could you do this? An events company in Somerset. Oh, we're doing a business show for the whole of Somerset. Could you deliver that talk for us? But it's not 20 minutes now. I need you for 40 minutes, and I need you to do this, and I need you to... And I then started doing some freebies for bigger business shows all around the south of the UK. It was working. It was working really well. We're now a year into this, and I'm getting offered keynote talks that are paid very well. 4 figures, and this is working. And me and Jesse are just going, this is brilliant. This is working. I did a talk in March 2020, and it was the biggest business audience we'd hit. It was the fee that was right for the amount of help we're giving companies. And we did this talk, got a standing ovation at the end of it. A queue of people asking questions, and I'm literally telling these people who to go to for help and passing on IT contacts and passing on security people's contacts and getting them loads of work, and it just worked. Me and Jesse packed up the kit, went to my car, sat down in the car and just looked at each other, and we swore a lot, and we just went, this is it. We've absolutely nailed this, and this is going to get huge. It was then a week later that the government said we are now not allowed in a room with more than 30 people. So it wiped out both of my businesses. The magic stuff, you think about it, every party, every stage show, gone. The speaking stuff, every single one, gone. And I can remember people saying, oh, it's only going to be a few weeks, then it'll be back to normal. And I looked at what was happening in other countries where the pandemic had already hit, and I'm like, they're months into this. This is not going to be a couple of weeks. So I went from mental theft was flying and absolutely taking the country by storm to you're not allowed to do the thing you absolutely love. And that was tough, mate. That was weird. So that in what, a couple of minutes, that's the story of mental theft really beginning, growing, hitting a point where it's made this massive snowball and it's going to just keep going, to it stopped. And I thought that was it. I honestly thought I'm going to be a van driver or something because this isn't going to rebuild. I was gutted. I was absolutely at my lowest for about 2 months, I think. In that time, I stopped doing anything productive. Weirdly, about 2 months into it, I did some gardening and I built a table for our garden. Jesse saw the picture of the table on Facebook and he called me up and he went, you ready now? I was like, what are you about? Now, he'd been in constant contact. Like every few days we would chat about things. And he was always keeping an eye on me because I think he knew what I was going through. But when I built that table, he went, awesome, you ready? And I was like, I don't understand, mate. And he said, Paul, it's getting worse. People need your help more now than they did before the pandemic hit. Cybersecurity is going nuts. People are now working from home everywhere. They're less protected than they ever were. And the one person that I know that could really help them is hidden in his house. Let's write the book that we've been talking about. And you've been moaning you don't have time to do it. I was like, but mate, I've got no money. I've got no income. I can't afford to launch a book. And he's like, that's a different problem. Let's just write it. Let's get it written. And we got to, I think, I'll be nice to us and say we got the book to about 80% complete. Then I had a real strop because there's no way I could launch this book. And he said, "Oh, we'll do a crowdfunder." And I'm like, "Don't be stupid. Crowdfunder won't work. Nobody's going to give money to a magician who now talks about cyber. It's not going to work." One of my other friends, I have now found out who it was, and whenever she sees me, I do give her the biggest cuddle in the world, but I could also throw so many things at her for this. She contacted a crowdfunder company and told them all about my project. They then contacted me and said, "If you do this crowdfunder through us, there will be no fees." Now, normally crowdfunders charge between 5 and 20% of whatever you raise. And I said, "But what do you mean no fees?" And they said, "Seriously, no fees. You will pay us nothing. You will not even pay the credit card processing fees." So I'm now looking at this and going, well, if I say no to that, I'm the stupidest business owner in the world. I don't think it'll work, but I've got to say yes. So what was it? We needed £2,000 to launch the book. I wanted £4,000 to launch it in a way that I'd be proud of. We ended up raising nearly £7,000.
Wow.
And it kicked me up the backside.
Yeah.
And then after the book launched, it hit bestseller lists in various places. Amazon, so it went on Amazon December 2020, and Amazon have different sections of bestseller lists. So there's one for security. Oh, look at that! Nice timing, that's my cover. It still drives me nuts, that cover, because that's my eyes, and Jessie did it really.
I have to say, for those of you that are listening to this, I have just put the cover of Mental Theft, Your Mind is the Weakest Link, on the screen. So yeah, go and check it out.
And even now I feel that proud rush of something in my body, because I still can't believe we did it. But yeah, the book launched, did really well, paid my mortgage, to be honest with you. Wow. It helped us stay in our house that I thought we were going to lose during the pandemic. And then I started getting asked if I would do speaking online. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. Can I do that? Will that work? And I started testing some ideas of what I could do online. And the blatant answer is yeah. I managed to do some talks that were informative and fun and scary and magical online all around the world. I did talks in Australia and America and UK, and one went out, and I don't know all of the countries that were involved for one of them, because I was literally just invited into Zoom, and then I was explained that I had the branch manager and assistant branch manager of every store for this company worldwide. And all of a sudden you're looking at such a mix of creed and colour and age and sex and type, and at the end of it I got feedback like it's the best speaker we've ever seen.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So
and now you're back in a room. So now you are back traveling with live people.
Yeah. Last week I was at Accountex UK. Last week I was also at SITS, which was in London Excel. 2 weeks time I'm doing the IT support summit, and that's in Canary Wharf. I'm off to Manchester for something else, and I'm just kind of looking around at the moment, Jackie, and going, do you know what? If I was that scared kid, if that scared little kid had not had something that pushed him, what would I be doing? You know,
what do you think that push was? I mean, was it getting into a youth theatre, or?
Yeah, it was a massive mix of some amazing people who, the youth theatres. I mean, I'm still in touch with a load of the directors from when I was in youth theatres. From the Beck Theatre, I've got friends that. Well, actually, that's a good example. Suzette was tech manager for the Beck Theatre in West London when I was there as a kid in a youth theatre. She then employed me as a technician in that theatre to the point that she was at my wedding 10 years ago. That's how important some of these people have turned out for me.
Yeah. It's having that support, that sort of network, people that believe in you, or people would just give you a chance, give you permission just to, play, explore, experiment, just be yourself.
Yeah. And I know even now, right, I'll do something on Twitch or on Zoom, or I'll go somewhere and do a keynote talk with, and you'll see a photo of me with massive audience, and it helps my ego so much. Don't get me wrong, okay? It gives me that moment of, yeah, did it. But I know that one of those people that have known me since I was a kid will send me something that's the right side of abusive and funny and sarcastic. And I know that I'm never going to be allowed to be one of those absolute divas.
Yeah.
Because my mates will always just keep going, Prod, you're still
Yeah.
one of us. Yeah, I am.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
But you're not only doing the cyber talks, the mental theft talks. You're back doing magician stuff. Tell us about Hanger Farm and the
Yeah,
Minstead Trust. So they're in both of our hearts. The Minstead Trust.
yeah, I love the Minstead Trust. I love what they do. Please do go and have a look at them. Look at the Minstead Trust and look at Hanger Farm Arts Centre. They help people with learning disabilities. They help people that. Do you know what? I hate the way to talk about this, but they help people that sometimes get overlooked. And you go to Hanger Farm Arts Centre, some of the people that are working there and are running it are the most lovely people you would ever meet, and they're amazing at their jobs. But unfortunately, most of the businesses in the world overlook these people. Now, I was asked if I would put on a stage show at Hanger Farm. I believe it's September the 18th. Go look at their website. Just in their website search thing, just put Paul Newton, and you'll find the show. We're doing one at 4 o'clock and one at about 7:30. And yeah, it's going to be me. I'm going to be telling some stories. I'm going to be doing some magic. I'm going to be having some fun. Please do not expect both of the shows to be exactly the same, because I don't write a script. I'm going to do exactly what I've said today, which is it's going to be about Lego bricks and how I build the shows while I'm on stage. And do you know what? If the people from there all walk out smiling a bit more, laughing a bit more, and just having that moment of, how do you get away with that?
Yeah.
Then I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will put all of those links in show notes after this, because it's well worth it.
Thank
I've
you.
booked my tickets, so I'm going to be there.
Well, have you seen how disgustingly extortionate the prices are?
Oh, I know, outrageous. But
I
you're
think
worth it.
yeah, the most expensive one is £15.
Yeah.
And this is another bugbear of mine. I don't like when you look at a show that you really want to see and the tickets are 85 quid. No. So £15. If you buy a family ticket for 4, it's even cheaper. There you go.
No, it'd be well worth it. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Just before I let you go, because we have been talking for hours. So just very quickly, I do want to mention the podcast. Is the podcast, here we go, Newton's Nuggets.
Ah, my little cartoon dude. Thank you.
Looks just like you.
Brilliant.
And yeah, let's throw that one in as well, just so we get to. Oh, look, it's me.
Look at that. I had a lovely guest on my show a couple of weeks ago called Jackie Goddard. She was brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, go and check that out. So the podcast, when did that start and why? And I know you do that with Jesse, so obviously it's a bit of a double act you've got going on there.
Yeah, that started. So before it turned into the interview show, it was literally me just pointing the camera at myself. And it was called Newton's Nuggets because I just gave one nugget of information to try and help the people that know me. And then when the lockdown happened, and I went into Grumpy Paul for a few months, or a couple of months, I turned around to Jesse, we were having a chat about nuggets, and I said, look, there's a load of really interesting people that I know, and they're in my network, that I'm sure they'd jump onto a Zoom call with me for half an hour. We could interview them about themselves and what they do and how they got there, and can we possibly inspire other people to do the same? And can we get them to give a nugget of information at the end of every show as well? And this could help people without it costing them a penny. And, and the book's launching, and we've got some money from that, and we could use that to, and some of the big companies that have sponsored the book, we could give them some freebie advertising within the show. And we just went, yeah, let's try it. And the first show we did, was actually the buddy that I hinted to earlier, who went for the audition and didn't get the part because his nose was broken, and then they made a fake nose on the part. It was just nuts. But he's a Hollywood stuntman, and he's a magician, and he's one of the nicest blokes you'd ever meet. And he's been on Britain's Got Talent and got down to the finalists of that, being a stuntman magician. And I turned around to some of these people and said, would you come onto this show that's unknown and has no followers, no listeners, nothing so far? And everyone that I asked said yes. And I remember sitting there going, maybe this is a good idea then. I've got some really clever people jumping to be on this show, and I really like them. And we did it. We recorded like 6 of them and launched it. And then it just started getting a following. And it started getting more and more people applying to be on the show. And I'm like, are you seeing the quality of the people that want to be on this little show that we're telling everyone has no followers and no listeners? And we still make a joke of it now. I mean, we're now 2 years and a few weeks in. And me and Jesse still joke about it because I freak out a bit too much if I look at how many people actually download the show. Okay? I don't tell anyone the numbers because I don't want to admit it in my own head. So we make a joke of, I think Jesse's now pushed me to 8. I admit that 8 people might listen to the show, and I'm good with that. Okay? It's a nice little audience. I can handle talking to them. That's fine. But yeah, Nuggets has just kind of taken on a life and a business of its own.
Yes.
We get sponsors for the show, and they pay us a bit of money so I can keep paying the electric bills. And sometimes we'll give an advert out to a cause or a person that we think is worthy, and they should be in front of other businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really... Even the little cartoon dude that you just put up on the screen a minute ago, he was drawn by an artist called Simon Clemens, who does graphic design. Thank you. Perfect. And he's brilliant. And he gave us little Paulie free of charge because he loves the show.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And you just can't... People like that are just amazing, Jackie.
Yeah. So you're not going to tell me how many numbers they are for, for people that listen to me and you talk? No. Well, I can tell you that I've got at least 3.
3. So, that's a nice number.
That's a nice number.
I like that number.
That's my mum, dad, and my sister, basically.
Oh, Jackie, I've got to let you in something then. It's 4 now because there's me as well.
Oh, well, there you go. Brilliant. Yay. So go, please subscribe. What do they say? Hit the bell or something.
Hit the bell. Hit the YouTube. Hit the bell. You know you want
to. Hit the bell. Right. So before you go, where can people find you?
I'm easy to find. You've either got paul-newton.co.uk. That's all the magic-y stuff. You got me on LinkedIn. That's there.
So there's LinkedIn.
And mental theft as one word. Just type mental theft anywhere and you'll find me.
So yeah, paul-newton.co.uk or mental theft, all one word, .co.uk. Or if you want to connect with Paul on LinkedIn, you can do it there.
And can I say, if you do connect me on LinkedIn, please put a message in it saying where you met me or heard me, and I'll accept it. Because I'm dealing in cybersecurity, I get a lot of random accounts that I just have to ignore.
Or do you know, that's made me think I should ask people if I can put their LinkedIn up. Sorry about that. I'll take it down immediately.
That's fine. People are allowed to follow it. I'm just a bit more wary about connecting to people.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There are some strange people out there. Thank you so much, Paul, for today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and it's so interesting. The whole journey from Paul Daniels' magic set through to keynote speaking and cyberspace. It's just
it's nuts, isn't it? If I look back at the last few years and just think, what just happened? And fingers crossed, it's going to keep going.
Yes. And I will put this out and put all the links in there. So thank you very much, Paul. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, it's sunny. I'm going to go have a nice cup of tea.